Welcome, everybody. This is the Q4 2022 podcast by Salesgenomics, and we are here to talk about the latest Q4 strategies, how an D2C brand can get themselves ready for the most profitable Q4 experience they've had in their history. And we all know that this year is very, very different than the previous years. We are probably what some might say is the verge of a big crisis. We've got huge inflation pretty much worldwide. We've got huge instability and about the world's economics and geopolitical situations. So it's very interesting times ahead of us. And we're going to talk about how this current world situation might impact the e-commerce world and how it might impact the consumer behavior and how to position yourself in the best position to make the most out of it, regardless of where the world is heading. So we're going to cover a multitude of different topics. We're going to talk about the trends. We're going to talk about the offers. We're going to talk about optimizing the website to receive the Q4 traffic. We're going to talk about traffic strategies, creatives, and everything that we think has changed since last year, since we did our last year strategy plan to help give you guys as much information and sort of actionable advice as we can. So I've got here with me cream de la creme of Salesgenomics. We've got Andy, our head of operations. We've got Tomasz, our head of strategy, and Aneta, our head of creative. And we're going to dive deep into the e-commerce strategy. So welcome, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. Do you want to do a short intro real quick?
Hi, everyone. Super nice to meet you. And yes, please check our podcasts. I'm going to talk about creatives and everything that can help you drive more sales this Q4.
Hi, I'm Tomasz. Managing the strategy here in Salesgenomics, making sure that we have the best strategies and tactics to deliver the best results possible for our clients.
And hello from me, Andy here. I'm overseeing operations, so exactly how we hat on, because I have quite an involvement in looking at UX and UI and conversion related strategies for clients also.
So to those not familiar with what we do at Salesgenomics, we're a 360 digital D2C agency for mission-driven entrepreneurs. We help brands grow from 6 to 7 and 8 figures in direct to consumer revenues through a multitude of channels and creatives. And conversion rate optimization strategies, as well as the holistic sort of business outlook on how to optimize your profit per order and lifetime value of each of your customers. Let's talk about the trends, right? So what are we seeing right now in the market? So since last year, we've seen a massive spike in the advertising costs. The inflation is clearly happening as well. Many producers or manufacturers are increasing their prices, which sort of puts a lot of pressure on the brands to raise their prices as well. And as on the other hand, we've got consumers who are sort of slightly starting to get a little bit reluctant to spend because of the instability in the market. Are you guys seeing the same thing? Is there any other trends that we're seeing that could impact Q4 and e-commerce brands' performance?
So for sure, we see and will see impact of people not being being afraid to spend too much money, not doing impulse purchases, and in general, right? They have higher priorities, make sure that they have food and gas to go to work.
Yeah, definitely. The impact on certain categories might be negative, and on the other hand, the brands that are sort of perceived as the essential goods, I think that they shouldn't see. I mean, at least that's my prediction, that they shouldn't see much decline. In fact, I think that the price sensitivity of such products might be lower. So, there could be opportunity to raise prices for the brands to mitigate the effects of the inflation and therefore sort of maintain the stable margins despite the situation.
We'll certainly mention that in a second, but just to go back a bit more to what Tomasz was saying, we definitely need to work harder these days to attract clients or customers for clients' products, which are, impulsive purchases. People might have a little bit less disposable income. So, we need to up our game, and every merchant really needs to be looking for the gaps that they have in their strategy, in their branding, and in, their marketing approach to try and put their best foot forward because, you know, the competition is fierce. What we're seeing is some clients wanting to diversify their traffic sources. That does make a lot of sense. We're seeing a structural shift for interest in the general population, but that's reflected then in marketing dollars from Meta platforms to a degree and other platforms to TikTok. So TikTok is growing in importance. It's getting a huge number of eyeballs and is a very good platform for mass market, low cost, impulsive products. And I think that's going to continue. So in wanting to put their best foot forward should be considering having a presence on that platform and ideally be running some ads. Otherwise, I think, you know, this is something we'll probably delve into a bit more later. When advertising gets more competitive or more expensive, or if people have a little bit less willingness to buy just on a whim, on an impulse, always makes sense to invest some dollars in turning the traffic you have into more sales. And what we're talking about there, of course, is CRO. So what we really want to do is make sure that we're doing our very best to convert the visitors we are winning, that we can afford to bring to the site, to either take a micro conversion so that we have an opportunity to follow up with them later, maybe signing up for an email, for example, or even ideally getting them into a retargeting list and selling to them relatively soon after their first exposure to the brand. Obviously, that depends on the industry vertical. I might just change gears and address now the question of Google Analytics, because it is very relevant to what we're looking at. And it's actually quite an opportune time to be looking at this, even though it feels like for most business owners, it's super busy and they probably don't have time to consider things like this. But we think it's actually the best time to be looking, and that is Google Analytics. There's a major sea change happening in how Google Analytics will be working for e-commerce merchants. The deadline, if you like, the end of the current Google Analytics version is the middle of the way through next year. So most people are thinking, hey, I've got plenty of time. It's, 8-9 months away. I'll change it Q1 and that's fine. The problem with this approach is that the new Google Analytics version, GA4, which is already available and can be integrated already into your site in parallel with the existing Universal Analytics or GA3, this new version will only have data from the day that it's set up. You can't backfill historical data. You can't import historical data. You can't transition data from GA3. The basis on which GA4 will work, the new version, is completely different. And that means if you want to be able to look back at this critical Q4 period in Q1, Q2, Q3 next year, if you haven't implemented your Google Analytics 4 and started collecting that data and configured your GA4 effectively now, you're going to be between different platforms or maybe looking up in a spreadsheet to try and see what happened in Q4 in 2022 when you're planning Q4 2023. And that's just not very efficient. You want your time series to be one system, easy to refer to. So this is a forward-looking thing. It's not something that would obviously give you a huge boost to your Q4 this year, but it's something that you'll probably regret not having done if you haven't implemented now. And it's certainly something we can help with. And it's a one-off setup, and then you can leave it run collecting the data until you're ready to dig in. There are some benefits. There's some improvements in tracking users across devices. There's some privacy enhancements which might help certain industries which have compliance requirements in certain countries and so on. The CCP. California, for example, there's some elements that could be beneficial straight away, but from our point of view, the main advantage and something you should look at now, an investment for your future data, if you like, is to get GA4 integrated. So that's something we're seeing people do now, and we definitely encourage.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a sort of divergence there, but we think it's super important to take care of this, especially before the Q4. And to those brand owners, in case we have some, that if it's your first Q4, an important question is why bother, right? And the answer there is that many of the brands make more than 50% of their total annual profit in Q4. Of course, depends on your niche and vertical, but for most brands, Q4 is really sort of when the brands put the most attention in their marketing and invest the biggest budgets because the customer demand is also the greatest. So it's a great opportunity. Q4 is a great opportunity to make money and also increase your brand awareness, because everyone is running very powerful offers there. Your reach is going to increase massively, and the customers that you will acquire with those powerful offers, when the customers expect it, are going to potentially, if you have the right offers and upsell strategy, are going to potentially stay as your customers for the future year. So you're effectively starting the next year at a much higher baseline, right? With all the customers acquired, all the lists, all the email retargeting, all the potential for increasing the lifetime value. So it's definitely important to focus on Q4 as an e-commerce brand. And as we mentioned, some of those trends that we've just pointed out, they are going to impact how Q4 is running, right? The price sensitivity of the customers in Q4 is very high. So customers, even before sort of the Black Friday offers are starting, they sort of withhold their purchases in anticipation that they're going to get a better deal in Black Friday, right? So that's why it's important to have your offers nailed down. And we might see, the impact of the current sort of inflation situation might be twofold, right? Maybe actually more people are going to buy in Q4 because they know they're not going to get a better deal throughout the end of the year, throughout the rest of the year, or maybe they're going to be basically like saving money for later. We'll see, but we're expecting that this Q4 is going to be, in a similar sort of fashion, as good as any other Q4, and probably the best opportunity to make money. So you need to sort of nail all the elements of your sort of business, right? So your lifetime value, your offers, your website conversions, your creatives, your traffic channels, so that you can get ready and max out this opportunity. Actually, let's start by talking about the offers, right? So what are the brands? What types of offers are brands running in Q4? Guys, like what are you seeing? What have we seen from last year succeeded? What types of offers? What types of products, bundles, things like that?
I can start with a few here. Bundles definitely are a great offer to have in Q4, where people are active to new brands. A bundle offers you to put a variety of products in their hand rather than a single product, and to offer what in dollar terms looks like a very generous deal, but actually from a margin point of view might not be as steep as the cut you might have to make on an individual product. So bundles are a great intro product at this time of year to kind of really pull someone into your brand universe, let them experience a lot of your products, especially if some are complementary. For example, in cosmetics, we see this a lot. And of course, bundles make excellent gifts, and this is a gifting season as well. So definitely offers around bundles with a gifting angle is something we see a lot of. We do, of course, the standard for Q4 that most brands take is to offer straight discounts. It could either be a percentage or a dollar basis. So they might pick a bestseller or a group of products and offer either a discount code or a direct markdown on some of those products to really show great value to attract those clients. It's something that has to be done, but it's worth being cautious about. It's important to have some competitor intelligence to have a sense for what your competitors have done in previous years. So you might, for example, look at archive.org and look historically back at Q4 last year for your main competitors' sites and see what homepage banners they were running through BFCM, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the run-up. That can be quite useful to give a sense of what they were doing then, and also maybe they might be repeating those similar offers. Another thing to bear in mind is comparing what you might offer percentage discount versus a dollar discount. So, if you're selling something for $100, a 20% discount is $20. Do you show it as a $20 discount or a 20% discount? And that can vary by the industry and by your customer sensitivity. But generally for lower price products, it's worth experimenting with straight dollar discounts, because often that's more direct for people understanding what their saving is. So that's another angle of offer that is quite common and that we see.
Yeah, a couple of principles to keep in mind when choosing your offers. So as Andy was saying, like the competitive environment is crucial, right? So you need to sort of, in your product category, there's going to be a sort of expected value of a discount that people expect, right? So for example, a lot of the shoes retailers, right, are shooting up to 70% discounts flat on all orders in that Black Week or sort of even Black Month period. So it's important so if you're going to go out to market with a 20% discount, then it's not going to be a very good good offer if you're in that niche, right? So it's important to spend some time to dive into those competitor strategies from last year. As Andy was saying, you can check what their websites look like and what offers they were running, which is a super good growth hack, because normally you cannot see those offers. Another thing to keep in mind is to keep the offer simple, right? So the one thing you don't want to do is confuse your customers. If it takes too long and they need to copy some discount codes and things like that, and the offer is, hey, this free tiers of discounts plus a gift plus something, it's too complicated, people are not going to get it, you're going to lose sales, right? So the benefits of straight discount is that it's simple. Another simple type of offer is, like buy one, get one free, right? Or having, let's say, free tiers that, let's say, above $200, you're getting 20% off, above $300, you're getting 25% off. It's fairly simple. It's also going to increase your average order value in line with what you're giving away as a sort of incentive for people to buy. Another cool tip is you can add gifts to your orders as well. You can add a random gift, which plays around with people's sort of sense of liking for gamble, right, and randomness and unexpectedness. So this is pretty good. Just make sure not to add too many different things on top, so that it becomes too complicated, right? And finally, the last thing to keep in mind is make sure you actually calculate your offers, right? So an increase in average order value, an increase or a decrease in your profits. So an increase in your discount needs to be matched by an increase in average order value. You can't give away much for free, right? Because so the way to think about this is you're going to see a much higher conversion rates in Q4 because your basically your offer is becoming better, right, as you're increasing the discounts. But that conversion rate increase needs to be sort of balanced against how much discount you're giving away. If, let's say, discounting by 50% is going to improve your conversion rates 2 times, then it means that you're breaking even and you might as well not do the same offer, right? You're going to get more sales unless there's, of course, like a long-term repurchase or lifetime value opportunity, right? So make sure to time it. And then if this is your first Q4, then you need to basically get this data and sort of test out, like, hey, at what discount points we're getting what conversion rate improvements. And if it's not your first Q4, then go back to the previous year, match up, what was the conversion rate difference, what was the sort of profit per order difference versus the discount, and see what makes sense for you in a data-driven way.
Yeah. One preparation you can do before doing a discount is making sure that your product price is high enough. And because what we've noticed that many times e-commerce founders are like really reluctant to increase the price, but it could help, like, to cover your ad spend and, like, improve your profitability. And you might not be aware that you're selling your products too cheap. So I advise to, like, play with like different pricing points. You have like few weeks to do it. If you want, I think one of the last posts on our LinkedIn talks about how one of our clients increased the price and increased the profitability. It was like a bit hard to convince them to play with the product price, to increase it actually, because, as I said, founders are reluctant to do it. They are afraid that they will lose the speed, the traction. But it's always good to test it and make sure that your price is, like, enough. Maybe you can sell your products like with few dollars or more expensive. So definitely, I think worth to try before doing a discount, right?
Yeah, so price tests are super important. This is actually something that we recommend to all the founders, doing some split testing on the prices, because if you can squeeze out a bit more margins, and especially people are going to be right now expecting price increases because of the inflation, right? If you're worried about how your price increases will be received among your current community or previous customers, then make sure to communicate this proactively. You can test it on a small limited test, not put it on your website, but on some hidden landing pages that you're only going to split test and send that traffic to a new audience to see how the conversion rate responds. And only then sort of do a worldwide rollout, right? Like we're big fans of lean approach to marketing and all sorts of testing, right? The beauty of digital marketing is that you can design sort of very isolated tests for very small groups of audiences. So you can only send that test to a new audience and things like that. So make sure to consider doing this, and don't worry about sort of you don't need to do all or nothing, right? Okay,
A
so
quick tactic there, Matt, if I can just jump in, a quick tactic there is if you do test and you decide to increase your prices, you could set a future date and email your previous customers to tell them that, hey, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have to increase the prices because of inflation and so on. If your product is a repeat purchase or something people might gift, that can very often prompt existing customers who are familiar with the brand to buy again before the price goes up. So it can be actually a way to add almost a scarcity aspect or a special offer aspect to doing something which a lot of, as we've said, founders are quite cautious about. Previous purchasers know that the price has to go up, and this is sort of their last window to get it at the original price. Clearly, you need to be sensitive about doing that just before a big promo or offer period, because if the promo takes the price back down below where you're starting from, then people are going to feel cheated. So this is just more of a general recommendation for outside of promo periods.
One more thing, which is I think really important, is that if your product has like multiple personas, you should have like different landing page and different offer for different personas. Same with gifting. So for example, if you run a female brand and you sell cosmetics for females, you should think about having like, landing page, like gifting landing page, which is like, which will convince male audience to buy this product as a gift. So make sure that your offer is aligned with the persona you're advertising. I think that it's like must have to have like, good success right now. It's like, have to different landing page or different offer actually for the different personas, and especially when you have like female product and it's a good product as a gift. So maybe males don't understand all this fancy words and things or problems this product solves, but if you convince them this is the great as a gift, they will just buy it, right?
Yeah, and that reminds me about another thing regarding the offers, right? So we're big fans of applying agile methodology to digital marketing, and so the rule here is test your offers before Q4. So the Q4 is the most important. It's too important not to test your offers beforehand, right? And of course, you cannot test if you're running with discount offers, that's pretty much it's gonna be tough to run a 70% offer right now, so early before Black Friday. So for next year, the recommendation is, try testing similar offer in a different period of the year and see how your conversion rate behaves. But when it comes to different types of offers, if you're unsure about what products to sort of promote in those offers, what bundles to test and things like that, if you're thinking of introducing something new, then test it out beforehand, right? Like just roll out a similar offer, maybe just a smaller discount, and see if it catches on. If it doesn't perform better than, let's say, some of the offers that you have running right now, or discount offers, then just don't add it for Q4. Just go with something simpler. What sort of angle do I put on the whole promotion, right? And Q4 is fairly simple when it comes to this, but the general rule is the ads get very expensive when everyone is running their promotions, because all the budgets of the biggest spenders are increasing massively in that time. So that's why it's important that you start advertising before everyone else, right? So I mean, like, it's very hard to compete with the biggest brands because they are usually pushing everything so early right now and running the whole sort of Black Month, right, instead of even Black Week, right? But so if you can sort of afford this, if your audience is big enough, then and you think you can sort of monetize and keep getting sales for this discount for a month, and by all means go for it. We usually recommend to go with a Black Week sale, because that's the one thing you don't want to do is switch offers every day like this, especially onto the cold traffic, right? Because if you keep changing your ads, not only you're sort of taking on a much increased complexity in creative work, but more importantly, you're confusing the algorithms, right, of all the platforms. And every year that we've tried to do this, like the effect is the same. It's a lot of effort, and actually, like, we're seeing worse results with the brands that are pushing, to, hey, we definitely want to change offers, right? The changing offers is great for your email lists, but for your sort of traffic campaigns and advertising campaigns, you want to keep the offers stable, right? If anything, find your best creatives, run a Black Week offer, and send traffic to a collections page that has their offers changing every day, right? And you can even write there, hey, like, offers changing every day, leave your email to get notifications, right? Things like that. And that can work, but definitely don't overcomplicate it. Even if you're sort of running, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things like that, you can just say that, hey, Black Friday discounts up to whatever 50%, right? And run the same ad even during Cyber Monday, right?
It's an interesting question in terms of when and how to switch between different offers, whether you should run one offer throughout. On the one hand, there's a lot to be said for simplicity and keeping perhaps as long as the whole week the same offer in place, but at the same time, bringing in some sort of novelty perhaps to which products they apply to can encourage people to come back on a daily basis. So if I've got a single offer on a single collection and that's static, your visitor may visit once, decide if they want something or not, and not come back. But as Matt was saying, if you change the range of products that are on offer, maybe a different category each day of the week on the run up, you give a motivation and reason for each visitor to come back on a daily basis and potentially make more than one purchase during this period. I think there's also separately an expectation in the market that the later you get into this period, so past Black Friday into Cyber Monday, that perhaps a lot of the purchasing power has been exhausted and it's the real bargain hunters that are still holding out. So often brands will wait until Cyber Monday for their strongest offer, depending on what inventory they have left of the products that they are intending to promote through this period. It can work and often is good to have something a little bit different at the very late stages, perhaps, that weekend after Black Friday, and to capture the real bargain hunters who are looking for the very last offers. Something worth considering, but as before, you need to be careful to watch your margin and also make sure that your inventory position is strong for the remainder of the year, because of course we still have strong sales to come through. So, there's an opportunity cost of selling things very cheap during this period, especially once you're through the main bulk of the period, versus having a decent level of inventory to see you through to Christmas and beyond.
Yeah, and if you've got this, that's a very important point. We'll cover inventory in a second as well. To add to the offer side, so if you have a loyal audience, I would probably discourage you from running bigger offers as the sale progresses, because your audience, the people that sort of trusted you enough to buy early, they might be discouraged that they didn't get the best deal, right? And you may sort of set the precedent to wait in the future years if this is an audience that keeps buying from you. If you have sort of, if your business is reliant more on the first-time purchasers, I wouldn't be so worried about this. And so the number one rule of investing is don't lose money, right? So my just to reiterate, my advice on sort of not changing the offers on the advertising side too much is valid, because this will lose you money. Like, this tricks the algorithms; they don't have time to work properly. So don't switch the offers there, but by all means do switch the offers on the email side and all your other sort of retargeting channels, because if you can, and just like Andy was saying, like every day a new offer incentivizes people to come back looking. If you can discount a different product, different bundle, add different gifts and things like that, then you can squeeze as much as you can from your loyal audience in that time period. So that's definitely a good idea. So now, let's talk about the supply side and the inventory issues, right? So forecasting demand and ordering enough products. Right now, we know that the supply side is challenging. So make sure to order enough products for that period. I think forecasting how much you're gonna sell is probably beyond the scope of this podcast, because it's too complicated and it varies by niches. But Andy, any insights on how to stock up for Q4, or how to sort of prevent any logistics issues?
Well, I think it's very difficult because the circumstances vary in terms of the lead time to receive new product and so on. I think the first message I would have is, if you haven't already planned your Q4 anticipated sales, now's the time to do it, and now's the time to see what volume of inventory you have and where you might have gaps, because I think almost all retailers probably have at least a 3 to 4 week turnaround on new orders, and time's running out on getting that inventory in. So definitely now's the time to be planning if you haven't already got your inventory already lined up based on planning. In terms of planning, I think it's important to remember that the last 2 years have been unusual years. We've seen a lot of external factors, including the impact from the pandemic and policies around the pandemic. which have changed e-commerce behavior both on a temporary and a permanent basis in different ways. So I think it's important not to just expect that you're going to do last year's numbers, for example, if you're an established brand, but to give yourself, a buffer of margin for error. So if you can afford to perhaps order a bit extra, 10, 20% extra to the upside, and that isn't going to jeopardize your financial position, and you could continue to sell that through next year, then by all means, stock up in advance. But it's also important not to look at the last couple of years and see some bumper perhaps during lockdowns when everybody was buying online and assume that that's your baseline. So I just want to raise a bit of caution about planning and expectations in terms of inventory.
Okay, so we've covered the supply chain, but we didn't cover one thing, which is, okay, so if you want to stock up on the products, you might need to prepay, right? But this is actually a good idea to stock up on products in bulk, because you can get a better deal with your suppliers. At the same time, if you're struggling with cash flow, or you're worried that you're going to stock up too much and might have problems with something else, then consider getting an Amex card. That's always a good idea, because you can also spend the points on your flights and other things, and or consider using companies like Clearco for getting some financing. That's if you know you're going to sell out your stock anyway. This is definitely very important that you stock up. It's better probably to take a little bit of a risk, of course, like consider this carefully, and make sure to cost it up. Now let's talk about how to actually get your customers using during Q4, right? So in Q4, there's two things that are important to know, right? Because advertising costs are spiking massively, then it's all the retargeting audiences and email lists and messenger lists you've built up to that point are going to be the sort of your main monetization piece, right? Of course, at the same time, you're going to be running your cold offers, but for some brands, actually, like monetizing those previous customers is the biggest sort of profit opportunity in Q4. So what kind of make sure you sort of audit all your retargeting lists and try to activate as many of them as you can, right? Your whole email list, your past customers, you can segment there and send different offers to previous customers and those that didn't convert. You can go back for as long as you can to your retargeting audiences on Facebook and on Google. So make sure to create those audiences in advance if needed, depending on the platform. Check out your messenger lists. If you've been running any messenger ads, make sure to blast them out in this Q4. And
one option, Matt, is also cross-platform. So, for example, taking your past customer lists or email lists and importing them to ads channels, where the ads channel can match your customers to be able to, for example, reach your email list also through retargeting ads, or to build audiences around. So don't just consider siloed, retargeting based on the original touch point of the contact, but you can use some of the tools that for matching that a lot of the ads channels like Meta, TikTok, and so on have available, to import those audiences and to be able to reach them in a new way, and to kind of have a, if not an omnipresence, a multi-touch presence, which most likely will put you in front of mind when it comes to their BFCM purchases.
Yeah, and I would add that go beyond the media buying. So there's this great service, Postpilot, where you can actually send a physical postcard to your clients, or cart abandoners, and you can also do it for the people who passed in the purchase. Especially now when CPMs are getting really, really expensive, you can go like beyond the media buying and try services like this. We have it for one client, and it says like really good ROI. So yeah, it's definitely think like outside the box and not only focus on the regular media buying. But I think the best would be what Andy said as well, like import your Klaviyo list, send it to Facebook and other channels, and run a special offer for them, right? Again, going back to the offer and the landing page, it would be good if you have like dedicated landing page for the past customers. It could probably improve the conversion rate.
Exactly. And so now when it comes to traffic, let's talk about how to get new customers, right? And the important principle there that I want to share is that because the ad costs are getting so expensive, then and your retargeting lists, the costs on, for example, retargeting your ads to people during Q4 do not raise that much. They still increase, but like not by that proportion as the new customer acquisition costs do, unless you have a really crazy offer and for some reason you hack the Facebook algorithm. Then you might want to pre-buy your retargeting traffic, right? So basically buy your new retargeting audience early, so you can try increasing your budgets even as early as now, or some brands are starting in June, just to be frank. So the right time to start prepping for Q4 was 2 months ago, I would say, but the next best time is now. So try increasing your budgets and testing your offers even now, because even if you sort of get closer to lower your margins, at this point, you're going to pre-buy those retargeting audiences that you can later activate for Q4, right? So you need to find some cheap ways to get people through your audience. So what are the best traffic channels to focus on in 2002, Tomasz?
Yeah, so definitely, like, the first way to go is Facebook for sure.
Still, Facebook is still the key, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the product, right? If you have like high demand for your product, you probably will have like much better ROAS on Google. If the demand is high enough, you can scale there. But usually what we see is that Google is not so scalable. You can scale to the certain point. As high as demand. With socials like Facebook, you can scale as much as you are profitable or as much as you want. Of course, TikTok is good, much higher CPMs, but TikTok is like much different from Facebook. Everything what media buyers learn on Facebook, it won't work on TikTok probably. And for TikTok, the crucial thing, which is also true for Facebook, is like creatives, right? You have to have a lot of interesting creatives. They have to be like TikTok ready. And usually if you will have like creative that works well on TikTok, it will work really well on Facebook. It won't work the other way around. Usually you have like, channels like Snapchat as well, which is not so popular, but there are brands that are winning there. Bing ads, similar to Google ads, of course, the share is like much lower, but still with much lower costs. Yeah, I think this would be like go-to channels, but I would focus on like Facebook and Google first.
Yeah, and let's not forget influencer marketing, right? Like especially on some channels, you can get some really good CPMs on that channel right now. For example, like the hidden gem that we've discovered is Twitch influencers. If you're in the gaming space or your audience sort of could be interested there, then the Twitch influencers are incredibly cheap. I definitely recommend testing them out. The next best thing is going to be your TikTok and YouTube guys. The good thing about YouTube influencers is that whatever you invest is going to stay there. So the videos, if your influencer knows their SEO, and then they can make a video that's gonna continue generating you traffic and customers for a long time. So it's definitely an important thing to consider. Instagram influencers are, I would say, they're more expensive than for conversion than they used to be. Most people are looking into TikTok right now, and because TikTok guys are still sort of at a relatively good value comparing to what they generate. And especially, if you find a good influencer video, the beautiful thing is that you can then push it with via advertising, and you can even boost sort of their video on their profile, which is super native and it's super effective, right? So we found that there's one thing in TikTok ads, whether it's TikTok ads or TikTok organic, a good video is the most important, right? So if you have a good video, it's going to work as an organic video, and it's going to work as ad. If it's a bad video, it's not going to work on either channel. So can definitely consider influencer marketing. The last thing about influencers is consider people who have their newsletter audiences. If you're in a niche that is sort of a passion-driven enthusiast space, and people there have their following, have their loyal following, then also consider buying ads in their newsletters or blog posts, things like that. This can definitely work. So think about this now, pre-plan this campaign with them, reach out to the whole list, engage, and sort of plan the whole campaign structure, and go beyond just like buying let's say the most typical ads that, hey, here's a promo, things like that, right? For Q4, you can, if you have the budget and you have the time, you can plan something much more interesting marketing as well. For example, organizing an event that's also can get pushed via some PR outlets, right? So a PR stunt where, for example, you buy multiple videos from the same influencers, and the first set of videos is going to be, they are doing something mysterious, right? That people don't know what's up, right? Then you take some influencers that talk about this, what was happening there, then they repost it. Then you do a reveal party where they, for example, promote the offer that, hey, this is because of this and this and that. Then you send it to journalists, right? You get featured in something interesting. So like those kind of interesting campaigns go a long way when it comes to your sort of brand image and getting you organic exposure and establishing your brand in the broader PR world as well. So definitely consider this, but at the same time, remember that in Q4 the deal matters more than everything else, right? So you have to focus the most on your offer strategy, because it's gonna be the most important factor there.
I think one thing to say is, if you're considering starting on advertising on new channels, it definitely makes sense to get your account established and get started at least on a small scale straight away. You don't want to be on the eve of this major selling period and not have the experience, not have the accounts in place, or not have some data to be able to judge how to split your spend across channels for the best ROI. At the last minute, you need to really know what's going to work best for you. So for a lot of people, the question of what's the best channel is going to be what already works for you, and where you have experience, where you have context, where what the levers are. If you find yourself with too few channels at this point, or feel you need to diversify, as we've seen throughout this year, again, it's another case of wanting to act straight away, because it's going to reach a point relatively soon where you're not going to have time to get on board and ramp up a new channel in time for taking full advantage of this period.
Yeah, exactly. Q4 is hardly the time for testing. So this is probably the last moment to start testing your new channels. So definitely, if you're not on TikTok, this is the time to jump on board. So if you're looking for ways to get on TikTok early, right? The TikTok is all about user-generated content, right? And so maybe Aneta can speak more about this. Yeah, how do you, as a brand, how do I get started on TikTok?
Well, I should say it's not that easy nowadays. The market is pretty harsh, but there's still some strategies that can help you to stand out even now. I would say the best strategy is to find right bloggers, first of all, because it's very important to make it very native, very, very catchy, and find a lot of bloggers, because you're gonna need a lot of content to actually drive your account. So post every day, and yeah, just get it to work. A lot of work should be done there. Also, our agency can help you to somehow stand out on TikTok. If you need it, just let us know.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing about TikTok is that if you're not the type of person that knows how to do TikTok or enjoys doing the TikTok videos, which is, by the way, not that difficult, but you definitely there is some learning curve. You can also partner up with different content creators and to create videos for you, right? And you can split test and find different creators that could sort of feel your brand and create viral videos that are going to grow your audience, and then sort of double down on them, right? The important thing is consistency, right? You need a month or 2 months of consistent content for the TikTok algorithm to know that, hey, you're not an account that's potentially risky, that's new and inactive, and that might spiral out into some content that would harm their user experience. After that time, if you keep posting consistently, you're going to be properly exposed to the virality of the TikTok algorithms, and if your content is good, you basically have a chance to go viral, grow your audience organically, and then push it also with paid advertising even more. Yeah, you can basically work with us or find your own content creators that you like, and they would create consistent videos for you, manage the comments, test out different strategies, follow the trends, and work with our creative strategists to basically optimize how to grow your TikTok account.
Yeah, what I wanted to say that consistency is very good, but we shouldn't forget about creativity. And that is the work of creative strategists who actually work on those crazy concepts to go viral. And it is like a key of success to go viral on TikTok.
So now that we are on, we've covered traffic, but we know that traffic is that it's almost impossible to get good traffic nowadays without good creatives, right? Maybe Tomasz, do you want to share like what do you think is like the biggest leverage right now in sort of creatives and media buying and generating media buying results in general?
Really basic media buying, like really simple setup for example, Facebook, with like one campaign, one ad set, or like few ad sets with few different targeting. But you have to have like great creatives, right? Creatives that that will catch the attention, that will convince people to click and direct them to your landing page. So another point which is high leverage is like landing page and offer. What we advise this is to our clients is the thing I already spoke about, like match the experience to the particular persona. So if you have like this cosmetic brand and you can have like two funnels for two different personas. So one is like gifting and the second is like females buying for themselves. So make sure that the experience from seeing the ad to the landing page is like, dedicated to the particular persona. Going back to media buying. So I think like, pretty simple campaign setup, don't do like a rocket science there. Most of the like, fancy tactics that were working like, 2-3 years ago are not working anymore because of this iOS changes and how the advertising platforms changed. So like, usually what our media buyers do is like, one campaign, a few different ad sets, each ad set targets a bit different people. Make sure you have like broad targeting, like stacked interests. So like most popular interests relevant to your product. Most like 10% lookalike or 1% lookalike based on the like purchase. For some accounts we see that exclusions works pretty well, for some accounts don't, so don't take it as it has to work with the exclusion. Rather do like A/B testing, play with it, like put exclusions, check if the performance is okay, not try to delete them, and maybe this will improve. And what's more, I think that things like having the domain verified to be ready for iOS 14 traffic, making sure that you have like UTMs in place, offline conversions, which would enable you doing breakdowns by gender, by age for your conversions. Really important to have like offline conversions set up. And you can do it like for a few dollars with Zapier, or we can do it for you. And yeah, I think that would be all, right? Not overcomplicating, but yeah, put like 80% of the time for the creatives, for like, doing research, doing great creatives. Aneta, a lot of job for you, work for you. So yeah, and don't focus too much on like, don't research like a lot of tactics on Facebook, especially that something, maybe someone has like, there are some tactics that work on some accounts, but it's not like I remember the media buying in 2019. So we were like, playing with different tactics, and it were working like you wanted to like cheat the algorithm. But now the best cheat is like to have like great creatives, right?
A good offer, good product, good creatives, absolutely, and good sort of website experience. But let's talk about creatives because they're the most important. Aneta, so are there any principles for creating Black Friday and Q4 creatives?
As Tomasz mentioned before, I just wanted to highlight that definitely there is a lot of preparation when it comes to creatives and Q4. So a lot of work to be done. And I think the key here is to make a lot of things in advance. So you need to prepare all information about your upcoming offers and sales and promotions in advance to provide your team so they can prepare something before the Q4 itself. Because there's going to be anyway some last minute changes or delays. It's always a bit confusing period. Then you need something to be done very fast, unfortunately. So yeah, the key is to prepare in advance. What we do actually is we gather all the information from our clients in advance, as already told. analyze our best performer creatives from the last years and implement those best practices to our creatives this year. And we also prepare library of different references for each case, for each occasion, to just simplify the work of our editors and somehow make it faster. Because as we already told here, unfortunately, this is the time of the year when our consumer is surrounded by different offers, and your aim here is to make something that will definitely stand out and bring this sales, bring this attention to our customers.
Annette, can I ask, because I'm curious, I think there's probably a bit of a balance to achieve, because as you pointed out, there's a lot of other offers out there. So the first thing is you've got to stand out and be different in some way, or at least be very visible. At the same time, you need to communicate very clearly what the offer is, because you need people to make a split-second decision whether to click on the ad or not. Is there a way that you recommend to balance, to try and both grab attention but also have really clear clarity on the creatives that your team produces?
That's a good question, actually, but this is not only for Q4, it works during the whole year, I believe. You need to have a very good editor and very good creative strategists on your team, which will actually find this right balance for the creatives. But in general, that's why we are preparing those references or best practices, which already showed some nice performance, because this balance is already found there. And basically do not over complicate all of your ads. As we told here about media buying, do not make it more difficult, and it also works for creatives, I believe. But in general, there are so many interesting formats for you to try. Diversify your content, try out different styles, and of course, highlight the information about your offer and about your sale.
Yeah, and check your competitors' historical ads, right? Like the beautiful thing is that you can, using some ad spy tools, you can track historical ads that are not even active anymore. So this is cool because you can look back in the Q4 last year in your niche, search by keywords. Power Ad Spy is one of those tools, for example. And you can see what types of creatives the competitors were running back then, right? But a couple of principles from my side for creatives. So definitely the offer needs to be the thing in the center, right? And it has to be like, in this time, people are really shopping for offers, right? So your role is to be like as clickbaity as possible. At least that's my strategy. I've seen this work really. So like flashy banners that literally, like neon colors, that's sort of almost give you, some sort of make your eyes hurt. Like this tend to work. Of course, make it on brand, like Giphy, sort of quickly changing things, bright colors, things like that. Another thing to keep in mind, so you can test out those sort of like pure attention ads, Black Friday, 70% off, show your product, what it is. That's it, put a frame around this and make it flashy. And the other strategy is use your best performing creatives, especially on top of the funnel, and put a Black Friday offer overlay, right? So even if it's TikTok, I would say, right? I think you need to put like some offers so that there's less. At least that's my take there. But I think that there's less pressure on staying native, right? Normally you have to strike a balance between blending in and standing out. Like right now for Q4, it's going to be more about standing out, right? So there's going to be a ton of offers, and people are looking for the best one, and they're very receptive to buy. So you just need to show them what you have, what's your offer, and make sure that they notice it, right? And so Aneta, like super important that you mentioned the early preparation, because every year is the same. Everybody wakes up too late with the offers, and we're waiting for the clients to think about, hey, what do we want to do? And everyone is stressing out. So I really hope that this year we're gonna start getting ready early. And I encourage you guys to start getting ready as early as possible. And the other thing is to get those creatives set up in your ad accounts and approved early, right? Because like the last thing you want to do is you put in all this work, and then Facebook is gonna take ages to approve your creatives, and you're not gonna be able to run them for time, right?
I guess our audience might be curious about the balance between video and static image, and whether that changes in Q4 versus the testing we do throughout the year. Is there a significant difference?
Run both.
Run everything you can run.
Yeah, exactly.
enough.
Because there's a lot of push for the video ads. And many people is talking that, especially like Facebook reps, put video, but we see many accounts with great results with like, image ads, especially that if your product is not like really comprehensive or like complicated, doesn't need like a lot of explanation, like quick grasp on the image can like, help people make the decision to go to the landing page. So for sure, don't neglect the image ads. And if you're like starting with creatives, don't focus on like small improvements, so like one image and play with fonts or things like this, but rather like test many different concepts. I believe Aneta has some concept backlog that we can share what we are using here in Salesgenomics, like UGC, testimonials, problem, solution, and so on, right? So like test a lot of major changes, and in the future, if you will find like winners, then you can play with like smaller optimizations, so like different headline, different copy on this, but yeah, think about it that you have to do some big change to have like much different results, right? So for example, similar to cooking, right? If you cook the spaghetti, you want to have like different big ingredients, not like if you put like 1 gram of salt or like 2 grams of salt, right? It probably won't make a difference. But yeah, I would say like this.
Yeah, that's a good one. And one more thing is that keep looking into Reels, right? I think that's important because Instagram and Facebook are sort of competing heavily with TikTok nowadays for the domination of the short video space, right? So if your ad account has the Reel ads available, they're being rolled out slowly from what I know, then definitely test out that format and go into stories for sure. So remember to create multiple formats for creatives. You need to be everywhere pretty much, right? And then see what works, test different creatives for each of the different formats and see what's get the data and replicate it in the next year. I think one last thing we need to cover is the user experience and website conversions. Andy, is there any general tips we can share on how to maximize the conversion rates in this time?
I think the first thing is to review your site with the eyes of the customer in mind. So as a business owner or somebody who runs the website, try and go through your site, go through the full purchase process as if you've never seen the site before. I know this is hard, but try and put yourself in the shoes of somebody who hasn't seen the site before, and go through and just think about, what would the customer think of this? What would a first-time visitor think seeing this for the time? And just try and identify any points of friction, any disconnects, any points of confusion that might cause people to pause on their journey through the funnel to make a purchase. A more effective way to do this, because of course it is hard to act like you've never seen a site before that you look at every day, is to find somebody who would be a new visitor, maybe a friend of a friend, a relative, somebody who isn't familiar with the site, and give them a budget to spend on the site and ask them to actually go through the site, sitting side by side alongside with you and talking about their decisions of what page they're going to, why they're clicking in particular places, where things don't match their expectations in terms of experience. That kind of direct in-person hands-on experience is pretty valuable to be able to actually understand the thinking process of somebody making a purchase decision and identifying issues. There are also services available around the area of user testing where you can actually pay for a relatively low cost for a tester to go through your site and leave a video as they navigate the site on their points of confusion and so on. So, one big area to consider is you want to really make sure that you're cutting out points of friction and confusion from the site to make sure that it's as smooth and easy as possible to navigate through. And one key way to do that is user experience tests. And an easy way to do that is to do it in person with somebody who hasn't seen the site before and give them a small budget to make a purchase off your back, and they'll be happy to make, and you'll get some valuable insights. Other than that, it's worth checking your loading speed. Everybody is aware now that loading speed is critical to conversion. There are various benchmarks and thresholds that people recommend, but really it's difficult to be hard and fast. There's two aspects to this. One is the the pure experience of running the site. Does it feel like certain stages are taking a long time? Is an image taking a long time to load, longer than you'd expect? Really, you need to do a simple review audit of your speed, both in terms of the human experience of going through the site, but then also using one or two tools, which I'll mention in a second, to look at the key recommendations. Even if you've done this earlier in the year, you've installed new apps, maybe you've changed some product images, maybe you've changed the homepage image. It's really important just to double check that you're not leaving any low-hanging fruit for loading speed, which when you think through thousands or tens of or even hundreds of thousands of page loads, the impact of that delay might have on the average user's experience. Sometimes there are quite easy fixes there, for example, image optimization or fixing the integration of an app. The tools I would reference is Speed Booster. This is an agency that does some speed optimization, but they have a tool called Analyzer, which is the word analyzer, but without the E, so ZYR at the end. Perhaps can include the links in the notes, but they give you a Shopify-oriented perspective of what you can change to improve your site speed, and they give you some scoring, which is pretty accessible, even if you're not a developer or an expert. I would mention that the typical Google tools are not ideal, because we're talking about a hosted platform with Shopify, which means you can't make some of the changes that Google expects for a self-hosted site, like on a WordPress, for example, to improve speed. You're a bit more limited based on Shopify's hosting and design. Although rest assured that Shopify is generally following best practice, it just means the relevance of the typical Google tools aren't so good. So we've mentioned Speed Booster Analyzer as a first option. And webpagetest.org gives you some also useful insights, a little bit more technical, possibly some points you might need some technical help with, to just look for ways to optimize the site. And I think that's something we should be doing periodically, no matter the time of year. But of course, the return on investment of time spent on that is going to be bigger in a big quarter like Q4.
Pay people to go to your website and check how easy it is to purchase. Yesterday, I was doing an audit for the client for the audit and strategy document. And there's like conversion rate audit as well in this. And this is the clothing brand, and they have like one product with like few colors, right? So usually when you click a different color, maybe the image changes. But on this client side, if you click the different color, you go to the different product and the color is unselected. So if you select like the same color, you have to do it again, and then you can add it to cart. It's like their conversion rate is like low, below 1%, which is like, and I think this is the key thing they have to improve, because it was like, if I would like be, if I would be coming from an ad, I would be annoyed and frustrated, and I would leave the page. Someone has to be like really motivated to purchase this product. So click so many times. I think it has to be designed in a better way. And if you're a founder or the person who's like working on the website on the daily basis, you might not notice, or you think it's like normal. But I think like there are services, as Andrew said, where you can like pay people for doing this. You can ask your friends and like record their screen or just look what they are doing. And you can also like install the Hotjar, right? And ask people why they didn't purchase, or what obstacles they have, or what questions, or record the session and see if the people have like problems on your website, on the product page or the checkout page.
Yeah, exactly. Like doing those website tests, right? It's a bit of a difficult situation, especially for sort of relatively for e-commerce owners that are relatively new and that are just starting out. They don't have enough traffic to conduct proper A/B testing. It can be a little bit tricky and daunting implementing the tests, because you don't know if it worked or it didn't, right? So the usual thing that we recommend is like make sure you track what you're changing and when it happens, and so that you can, in case there's some issue, right? Like if some of those things are based on sort of like the user experience, that's something that feels natural, right? But they can cause also unintended consequences. So make sure to track everything that you're changing, add a hypothesis to it. What do you expect will happen? Like, how important do you think it will be? And make sure to track the data after after you implement those changes, right? Is your conversion rate the same? Is it higher? Is it smaller? And try to test one thing at a time, right? And then wait, for at least a week. This is an imperfect way of testing, but this is the most agile you can get if you don't have enough data.
Just to add to that, one additional thing to bear in mind, many people don't need to worry about this, many business owners. If you're using a hosted platform like Shopify, they are building their whole platform to cope with the peak in traffic that you see in Q4. But if you have your own hosted site, for example, WordPress with Ecommerce, bear in mind that you're probably going to be getting the highest traffic of the year. There's going to be a lot of concurrent users, and it's really worth making sure that your hosting provider can cope, can manage the load of these additional users so that your site doesn't slow to a crawl or even crash if there's a lot of sudden demand. So we do see this occasionally. It's worth now having that conversation, maybe increasing the specs of your server in advance to make sure you don't have any of these this issue with massive spikes of traffic that you hopefully will be seeing in this Q4.
Because I think we've went very comprehensive. One of the last things that I would mention as a tip is remember that when you're scaling your ads during Q4, there's going to be attribution delays. So this is a bit tricky and daunting to keep increasing your ad spend when, let's say, your ad platforms are showing you that your ROAS is negative, right? So keep in mind that you need to sort of get ready to fly a bit blind in this time. So just monitor, even every hour if needed, right? Like you need a lot of attention in that time. Every hour, what's your marketing efficiency ratio, right? Like how much you've spent, how much you've made back, right? When the promotions are running, so that you can have for confidence that, okay, we're making money, let's keep increasing, let's see where it goes, right? Like every hour is important during that time period. So make sure everyone is on standby and sort of ready to put in all the time needed in the time periods in case there's breakages, things like that. Make sure you test, you don't implement any last minute changes with developers. Like this is usually the biggest issue, right? Don't plan your site redesigns for this time of the year, please. This is the worst time to expose your brand to risks of sort of technological malfunction. And most importantly, enjoy the ride. It's a very exciting time of the year. Like we always, all of our team is super excited about this time, and we feel this adrenaline rush of the sort of campaigns going and doing crazy numbers. It's very satisfying and rewarding. But make sure to that once Black Friday, so get plenty of sleep for as long as you can. Then after Q4 there's going to be a brief pause, and then you need to get back to planning your Christmas campaign. So make sure to sort of like bundle this planning into one session. Plan both your sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaigns and your Christmas campaigns. Make sure everyone is ready so that you don't need to sort of stress out last minute, and just sort of execute the plan as you go.
Yeah, 2 and 1 reminder. So one is like, as we know that this landing page is really important, almost as important as creative. You can test like advertorial pre-sale pages or quizzes as a top of the funnel lander. The second thing would be like, make sure you have like attribution tool. So if you how to use Google Analytics, but we advise clients to use Triple Whale if you're on Shopify. And the third one, if I would have to say the most important thing from this call from my end actually, so like focus on creatives and make sure you have like different experience for different persona, so like different landing page offer. So this would be all from my end.
Personalization, yeah, it's pretty important. Yeah,
we already said that do not test, but be ready with your winners and be ready to somehow adapt them for this period of the year. So you would be like 100% sure that this will work actually, because they actually proven their performance before. So just adapt them to the Q4 and make it work.
Yeah, and also flashy. Awesome, perfect. Thank you so much, guys. In this case, it's been awesome, and we wish all of our audience very successful Q4. As a bonus, we're gonna drop for you a list of example creatives, sort of the best benchmarks that we've found or we've made ourselves, so that you can take them and copy. We're going to show you our best performers so that you can maximize your chances. We're also going to share with you a Black Friday, Cyber Monday Shopify optimization checklist, which is a massive resource of things that if you implement them in your store before the Q4, you will massively increase your chances of a profitable campaign. And yeah, wish you all the best. If you have any questions or you're interested in us helping you get ready for this Q4, then just go to our website, sgxmarketing.com, and book your introductory meeting. And thank you so much. All the best.